Oh man, I am tired out. I see we have Daisy Girl in the house. That's great. Not sure who else, but like I said, I don't have a whole lot of action during the live stream, and I didn't really announce it much. I just last night I had an epiphany, and I decided that was it for me, and I'll explain why here in a moment. I'll explain to you now why. Well, let me preface this by saying that the Dave Hancock Kyle Rittenhouse war has had a lot of collateral damage, and my let's say willingness to hang in there is one of those casualties. And here's what happened. Okay, so just so everybody knows, Dave Hancock was sort of the head of Kyle's security team when Kyle was basically during the trial and before it, and then afterwards. And Kyle and Dave had a split up afterwards. Dave Hancock has maintained that Kyle stole a lot of money from him or used his credit card without his permission or used his credit card and never compensated for him, which I guess is all the same form of like stealing. Now, that's Dave Hancock's take on it, right? And maybe he's right. Maybe that's exactly what happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. He's also made a lot of allegations about Kyle ever since. I mean, he's obviously very pissed off at Kyle, and maybe rightfully so. Okay, and some of the allegations are is that Kyle spent, let's say, the time before the shootings, lurking around on top of rooftops and basically LARPing as a security dude or something. He's also claimed that Kyle has used the N word in text messages, or at least one. And he also made a claim that Kyle sent out a message about wanting to shoot looters. However, it's pretty clear that that text message was referring to the CVS deal. So that's not really new information. Okay. We have him on audio saying it. So the fact that he texted it, I mean, so what? And there's a lot of other things. And so what happened? I spent one night and I spent a lot of time talking to Dave, listening to Dave's side of the story. And if Dave is telling the truth there, it doesn't paint Kyle in a particularly good light. He also mentioned some things about the FBI's handling of the drone footage, not the drone footage, but the sky footage or spy footage, you might want to call it, plus a certain company out of Louisiana's handling of the drone footage, which was very interesting, and it talked about things that I certainly did not know about these kind of surveillance techniques. So I invited Dave to come onto my show to explain to everybody what that was all about. I wasn't wanting him to talk about the other things about Kyle because I just didn't want to platform that message. And if Kyle wanted to come on and platform his message against Dave, I would not have allowed it either. Um, the trouble was that after that session, Dave Hancock's wife jumped in and was critical of my handling of the Wendy Rittenhouse interview to an extreme. I mean, there was a lot of name calling, and she basically got all over Neil Kernan, V Radio as well, who got madder than hell, and they both got into it. But I looked at that situation and thought, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. So I never invited Dave to come on the show. Not because I had any problem with Dave Hancock. I didn't want to deal with his wife. Okay. Now she's not here to defend herself, so I'm not going to call names. I'm not going to, make any allegations about it. But I will say that I was just really not comfortable having Dave on and then having to fend off her for the rest of the eternity. All right. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So Dave never made it on my show. And of course, Kyle would have been pissed off seeing Dave on my show. And I don't know if he had blocked me by then or not. Yes, he had already blocked me because he blocked me right after the Wendy Rittenhouse interview, which, by the way, we kind of knew that he was going to block us. And not by we, I mean me and Neil, V Radio. We knew that Kyle was probably going to block us for doing that, but we did it anyway. Everybody always says, "Oh, you're always trying to suck up to Kyle." That's bullshit. If I mean, I've been a big time staunch supporter of Kyle in terms of his self defense claims and everything else. However, I have not been a big supporter of his post trial strategy. And I've been very critical of it. And that includes, by the way, that book he wrote. And I just checked, by the way, the book's not selling. At least it's not selling on Amazon. I think he's getting one sale per day at this point. So, I mean, that's not going to pay your bills. So he's probably making, I'm thinking, $5 a day from the sale of the book off Amazon. And I know everybody's saying, "Oh, well, he sells a lot of his books off his portal." I believe he did initially. I don't think he's making any sales now from it. I think that ship has sailed. So I think that sales of his book have pretty well petered out almost completely. All right. And I didn't expect much to happen right there. So, at any rate, I have been telling people for a long time, and a lot of this has gone on behind the scenes. I mean, and if you're listening, Dave, if you're listening, Dave, I mean, you didn't see a lot of the conversations I had privately, in which I said, "Look, Dave has his story. You don't have any evidence to the contrary. You better be careful about going in and calling him a liar and all that kind of stuff because he may be telling the truth. And you have no way of responding if he does claim that because you weren't there. He was. And while maybe he is not telling the truth, you have no way of really refuting what he's saying." And he, again, very well, maybe. So I told him, I said, "Look, if he is telling the truth, then by going on and antagonizing him, you're just going to lose that battle because he has the goods. He either has the goods or he doesn't. And if he doesn't have it, then this will all fizzle out come trial time anyway. The discovery will come and go, nothing big will surface, and that will be the end of it. So there's no point in going in and taking him on. Um, you have a person who has firsthand knowledge, and you're coming in and attacking that person as a fan. That's just not a good position to be in. All right. Um, the attacks on Dave were pretty spirited, and I think that a lot of the Kyle supporters did really good jobs on it. But ultimately, he holds the aces because, again, he has first-hand knowledge of what happened. So I cautioned everybody all the time. I mean, people would post like, "Here's what he's saying," and I would say, "Don't go there." All right. Then the other day, I was talking to Wendy on the phone. I should be careful. I was texting Wendy. All right. And no, I was talking to her on the phone. Sorry. I was right the first time. I was talking to Wendy on the phone. And I mentioned that Dave had said something about Kyle. I forget what it was. And she told me, "Well, you just tell Dave to, are you still butthurt?" or something like that. The exact quote I posted on Twitter. And I asked her, I said, "Well, you really want me to say that? Because, once I post it." And she said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I did, and I should not have. I had told myself some time ago that I was not going to get involved in the Dave Hancock versus Kyle thing. All right. And I slipped up there, posted it on Twitter, and at that point now I have inserted myself into this whole deal, and I shouldn't have. Okay. Dave came back and said, "Well, that's funny. I was just talking to her and everything's fine." I asked Wendy about that, and she says, "No, I haven't spoken to Dave. I don't know." Okay. But at any rate, Dave seems to have disappeared off Twitter again. I have no idea what that means. Okay. This is not the first time. He's left Twitter and come back many times. And I don't know why he does that, but whatever, it's not my problem. Okay. Mm. Tonight I'm drinking Evan Williams. By the way, it's a bourbon that's really cheap, big, huge jugs, like 25 bucks. It's actually quite good. So, and I've said this before, if you're looking for like a good, cheap bourbon to keep around, in case you have friends coming over, you don't want them to drink up your good stuff, the Evan Williams, pretty good. Mhm. Okay. Um, so at this point, I kind of stoked the fire between Dave and Wendy, and I should not have done that. Mistake on my part. Keep in mind, I didn't do anything wrong. Everything I posted is absolutely truthful, but I just don't think it was a good idea to do that. Then I started reevaluating. I'm thinking, wait, what the hell am I doing defending Kyle all the time? I mean, he doesn't appreciate it. I mean, at all. I mean, he's blocked me, for Christ's sake. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people say, oh, you're just upset that he blocked you. No, I'm not. I think it's kind of funny, actually. And keep in mind, as I said before, I knew he was going to what I knew he was going to do that before I interviewed Wendy, and I did it anyway. That's how worried I was about it. And he blocked me, I think, primarily because he didn't like what I said about his book. And I have a whole string of videos on my impressions of his book, which are not very good. And also because I just gave Wendy and his sisters a platform to talk about their grievances about the book. Keep in mind, they never said anything, I think, bad about their brother, but they hated that book. Okay. And I can't blame them. It's like, yeah, 20-year-old kid, he doesn't understand the long-term ramifications because ultimately, in the end, what you're going to have left when all the dust clears is family. That's what you're going to have left. And those are the people you don't piss off. And he did. So I was like already kind of getting a little bit jaded. Then the news about Kent State came out. Let's take a look at that. Oh boy, hang on a second, guys. Here we go. Kyle Rittenhouse to speak at Kent State. Opponents post petitions to stop appearance. All right. Now you're thinking, well, why does it matter? I mean, he has spoken at college campuses before. I have not been a big fan of that, but okay. I mean, look, everybody's complaining about Kyle doing the grifting thing. He's being sued, so he needs money. And they say, well, why doesn't he get a job at McDonald's? You're not going to be able to pay for lawyers working at McDonald's. So he needs bigger money than that. That's why he printed out the book. He made a big mistake in thinking that if he outed his family as whatever he was trying to make them out to be, that would like increase sales, but nobody cared. They just wanted to hear about what happened that night and nothing else. They didn't care about his mom and sisters and things like that. I mean, it's nice to talk about them, but they weren't looking for a tell all. So he made a mistake there. And as you can tell, it didn't do much for sales. So he burned his bridges with his family for really nothing. And I could have told him that, but he wouldn't listen to me anyway. My job is to give advice to Kyle, and his job is to ignore it. In fact, I don't think he's ever followed anything I've ever said. Oh, well, we'll see who was the smarter one when all the dust clears. Okay, so they got Kyle Rittenhouse, who was found not guilty of a 2020 shooting that killed two men and wounded another during the protest, is scheduled to speak at Kent State University on April 16th. So he's making these rounds up through Kentucky and Tennessee, essentially. Why he's doing that round, I don't know, but I have a gut feeling that somebody close to him is up in that area. And again, it's Turning Point USA that's sponsoring. I mean, I don't have nothing against Turning Point USA. It's not their responsibility to look after Kyle's best interests. All right. And we're excited to announce our speaker and Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah, I don't know why it's so exciting because he's not an exciting speaker. He's not. I know all the Kyle's angels will be mad at me. Oh, he's dynamic. He's not. He's really quite dull, in my opinion. But you know, so he's going to be there, and of course he's got the GOP Republican haircut. I hate it. I think he would have been better off if he had kept his hairstyle from when he was, arrested, kind of a scraggly, curly look, you know. But all right. And they talk about what happened in Kenosha. And Kent State has a long history of allowing peaceful dialogue from all points of view. That's true. Um, so what's the problem? Well, no, I don't have the picture here, but we know what the problem is. In the early 70s, National Guard soldiers opened fire on some protesters and killed a bunch of them, five or six or something like that. And so Kent State has this history already with protesters dying at the hands of guns. I know what you're thinking. Well, those weren't protesters that night, Kenosha. Yeah, you try to convince the public of that. All right. Um, so what happened that night, or what happened that day, was that there was a protest at Kent State, and they called out the National Guard, and the whole point of the National Guard was they were going to herd the protesters from one area to another. And it's really hot. They're all wearing full gear with gas masks, okay, because they're throwing out, tear gas. So they have limited vision and they can't hear very well. So they're marching along, and people are throwing stuff at them, bottles, rocks. I don't think anything particularly dangerous, but still, okay. So there's a lot of hostility. Somewhere along the line, somebody opened fire. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, somebody likes my mustache and stance. Must be a new person because I've had the mustache for a while now. I appreciate that. Um, and I have a question from Jason. I'll get back to you on that one, Jason. Let me get this finished up. So somebody opens fire, and I know what happened to a bunch of young kids who are nervous. They're wearing gas masks. It's hot. They can't see very well. They're in a hostile environment, and they hear a gunshot go off, and they thought that they had been given the order to open fire, and so they did. The the marksmanship was ridiculous. And in fact, it turns out that a large number of the protesters were actually shot by ricochets. Okay. Um, Whatever the case, nobody knows who fired the first shot. And because when they turned their rifles in, nobody ever marked who had which rifle. So to this day, nobody knows who opened fire. Whatever the case, and by the way, this was a Vietnam War protest. So you can see how long this goes back. But nobody has forgotten this. So now here comes along Kyle, and above all the places that he's going to go, it's Kent State. And I'm thinking, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Oh my God. Hang on. Let me see what Jason's got here going. I would like to think that I have the better judgment. I have the more years behind me. Um, The other thing that I have going for me is I'm a supporter, but I'm not a fanboy. And therefore, I can be more objective because the people that are surrounding Kyle, I mean, they might be as old as me, some of them, and they may have been to Vietnam, not Vietnam, I mean, probably not Vietnam, but they may have combat experience and all that kind of stuff, but they're fanboys. So they're not objective. I can look at this thing, I think, from an objective standpoint, and I just really don't like this. Um, let's see here. Yeah. All right. Here's what happened once, kind of give you a little story. My niece-in-law, she had a little dog, and the dog was never to get out. But one day the dog did. She wasn't around, but me and a couple others were, and so we chased after this dog. And this dog was just sniff around, would run right across the street. I mean, right in front of cars and stuff. We're trying to chase this thing down. The dog would allow you to get within like a couple of feet and then would run off. And it was one of the most frustrating days I've ever had. I don't remember even how we got the dog corralled, but I know that we were chasing that damn thing for, good, it must have been an hour. And with Kyle, I kind of feel the same thing is happening. He presents something like a new advertisement, the body armor one. Oh my God. Um, let me see if I could pop that one up. I'd kind of forgotten I was going to talk about that tonight, but I think that we can talk about that tonight. It's only take me a second to find. Okay. Oh, yeah, here it is. All right. I'm going to switch over. Oh, I just got to do this. All right. Are you guys ready for this? If you haven't seen it yet, get ready for some real cringe.
Today we are going to be talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle available at armoredrepublic.com.
Always ready for what? Don't know.
It's a very practical kit, including everything that you need all the way from hydration to first aid to general purpose to magazine holders and to a very comfortable plate carrier. So included is the Testudo Gen 3 plate carrier, and we also have two C3 plates that I've included in the bundle. So these plates are multi-curve, multi-hit ceramic, so they can take multiple rounds. I really like these plates because it's going to offer level 4 protection. Thank you guys for watching. Again, you go to armoredrepublic.com, linked below, and you can purchase your Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle today.
Okay. What do you guys think of that? I'll watch this. I'm thinking, dude, okay, there's about a million other people in the United States that should be doing this ad than you. Have you not forgotten that you're a, let's say, pariah amongst the public? It doesn't matter whether you were in the right or wrong. Perception is more important than reality. And the perception is that you are responsible for the deaths of two people and the serious wounding of a third. All right. I mean, not. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, okay, he's not guilty of murder, but they will still say he's still responsible for those deaths. Okay, we have been spending months, seems like years, defending you against those kind of criticisms. And every time We get done with one thing, you come out with something else. And now you come out with this bundle thing here, this body armor stuff, which looks suspiciously like you are trying to stoke some sort of insurrection. Now, I don't think you are, but the public is going to think that. And so they get on Twitter and they start to hammer you. And of course, me and the rest of the Kyle supporters will jump in there and defend you. And we spend hours defending you. Do you actually like appreciate it? No, but we do anyway. As soon as the dust settles on that one, you come up with something else. It's like the little dog that runs a little bit further ahead as you're trying to catch it. We're chasing the dragon. And I don't mean in the heroin kind of standpoint. I mean, we're literally trying to chase down this criticism, but you keep bringing more of it. And this deal with Kent State is the worst thing you could have done other than shooting some people. Okay. If you would have shot some more people, okay, that would have been hard. But other than that, going to Kent State to speak was just about the worst thing you could have done. The people that are surrounding you, do you not understand? Do they not understand the implication of this? This is just bad optics. So now we get this. I'll show you some more stuff here. Oops, that's not it. All right. So let's take a look and see what everybody is saying about this. We have Sinead O'Brien, obviously named after Sinead O'Connor, so raised by a bunch of lefties. And she comes in, get in, losers. We're going to Ohio to protest murderer Kyle Rittenhouse at Kent State. It doesn't do any good to post a little meme there because the meme says, get in, loser, we're going shopping. Oh, okay. Kyle Rittenhouse has been invited to give a talk at Kent State. Does anyone see anything wrong with this? And yeah, I do. Bad optics. I get it. You have the right to do it. I don't care. This was still a bad idea. I have the right to jump in front of a freight train, but it's still not a good thing to do. Kent State should be disgusted by inviting murderer Kyle Rittenhouse to speak at your university. What he did cannot be linked to the May 4, 1970 shootings at Kent State. There is no correlation, and it's an abomination to the lives lost in 1970. Well, actually, that person makes a good case that, maybe it's not so bad that Kyle is going to be there. Kyle didn't pick Kent State because of the shootings. So I'd like to let that person, that Steinway person, to know that. He's not going to Kent State because of the shootings at all. He seems to be oblivious to what happened. And yes, it was long before he was born, but you have a high school diploma. You should know about this. This little murdering Nazi now sells body armor and always prepared bundles online. This guy killed Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, don't care. Anthony Huber, 26, don't care. And injured Gage Grosskreutz, 26, don't care. Oh, by the way, you're thinking, well, wait a minute, aren't you going to have Gage on your show? He ain't going to show up on my show. Give me a break. Don't even get me started on Kent State allowing this fascist to speak. I'll never understand. His mother drove him to a different town with an assault rifle where he murdered two unarmed people and wounded another. Kent State should be ashamed. Between the massacre in 1970, you see what's happening here? Now they have a petition. Oh, this ought to be good. I haven't seen it yet. Let's read this. Petitions here. This is was it's change.org. I think that if you want to petition change.org, you're required to get some middle schooler to write it for you. I'm convinced of that. Okay, so let me blow this up a little bit for you guys. I haven't read it yet. Maybe this will be written very scholarly. Okay. Yeah, Phaedra Norell. Hey, Phaedra. I know you were probably named after Tangerine Dream album, but I don't care. I think you are an asshole. Preamble. The news of Kent State's chapter of Turning Point USA, she puts the copyright in there. Oh, come on. Whatever. Hosting Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse has many students and alumni in the Kent State community deeply alarmed, especially with the event's proximity to the anniversary of May 4th. Oh, come on. They're about a month apart. If it was 3 months apart, she'd be still saying it. Mr. Rittenhouse's involvement in politically motivated acts of gun violence, his gun violence was not politically motivated by any stretch, is all too reminiscent of the events of that fateful day in 1970, in which 4 Kent State students lost their lives. Okay, I'm going to come out and say it, Phaedra. Kyle's shooting was not politically motivated, and the National Guard's shooting was not politically motivated. Tragic, as far as the National Guard goes, okay, it was tragic about what happened 1970, but it wasn't politically motivated. The Guard didn't open fire on those protesters out of some political concern. To host Mr. Rittenhouse on campus would be an insult to the legacy and memory of those lost. Um, yeah, okay. Keep in mind, this was 50 years ago, but all right. And wounded on May 4th and would raise significant safety and quality of life concerns for current Kent State students. This whole safety and quality of life concerns thing is repeated all the time, and I'll tell you why. Um, it turns out that one way that you can get an event canceled is to raise, let's say, having a speaker here would endanger the public. All right. So, what they do is when they have somebody come into campus they don't like, they levy death threats. And then they say, because we've had all these death threats, it's too dangerous. We're going to have to cancel the event. It's a tactic. And so they're always going to say this. There's going to be some safety concerns. He already spoke at East Tennessee State University and nobody got hurt. There wasn't even a scuffle as far as I know. So when he shows up, there's not going to be any violence unless you guys start it. And they will. They always say the same thing. Oh, oh my God. Oh, I'm so terrified. Oh my God. I'm so worried about the violence. Let's go over there and get in their faces and tell them. That's what they always do. They're so terrified, but then what do? They all stream over and try to antagonize the people they're protesting against. It's comedy. All right, let's read on here. Violation of institutional values. Listed below, we have included the mission and core values of Kent State. Oh, this ought to be good. As an institution, and expand on how the hosting of Mr. Rittenhouse violates many of these statements. Okay, here we go. Mission: from lives by providing access and opportunity, fostering diverse and inclusive communities, and advancing the power of discovery, learning, and creative expression. Wait, how does inviting Kyle hurt any of those? In fact, I would suggest that having somebody who has a contrary opinion promotes that mission. Core values, a distinctive blend of teaching, research, and creative excellence, no relation, inquiry and discovery that expands knowledge and human understanding. Gee, I wonder if inviting people on campus who have contrary opinions promotes that. Life changing educational experiences for students with wide ranging talents and aspirations. I don't see any connection there. An inclusive environment for learning, working, and living that creates a genuine sense of belonging. I don't see any connection there either. Collaborative engagement that inspires positive change across campuses and communities and throughout the world. No connection. Diversity of identities, cultures, beliefs, and thoughts. Diversity of beliefs and thoughts. I wonder if inviting somebody who has wildly different opinions than you promotes that. Respect, kindness, and purpose in all we do. I guess they're going to probably try to hammer on that one. Given the highly political nature of Mr. Rittenhouse's actions, so yeah, you don't want to invite anybody over that's engaged in some sort of political thing. This is a college campus, damn it. We don't need no politics here. We believe that hosting him would not make students feel a sense of inclusion or belonging, and certainly would not promote diversity in our community. It also mentioned diversity in belief and thought, asshole. E understand that hosting Mr. Rittenhouse does not. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's try again. E understand that hosting Mr. Rittenhouse does promote freedom of expression for conservative leaning students. Oh, well, we can't have that. Especially those associated with the KSU Turning Point USA chapter. However, we must weigh the value of freedom of expression against the sense of belonging that would be challenged for many of our minority communities. Oh, well, wait a minute here. Now, who's to say which one should outweigh the other? Huh? We believe that our students' belonging and the fostering of diverse communities must come first. Yeah, well, you're entitled to your wrong opinion. Kent State, public institution. This is a First Amendment issue. You can't say, well, I'm going to feel that we're not going to feel like we belong. So we're going to squelch another person's fundamental right. That's what she's saying. Because we're not comfortable with that person coming. And we feel that if that person comes, we're not going to feel like we belong. We're not going to instill a sense of belonging. Therefore, we should be able to squelch a fundamental right of that other person. That's what she's claiming. It's written a little bit better than most of these are. Solution. Oh, this ought to be good. We propose that KSU's Turning Point chapter find a different venue for its event, ideally one off campus. I think it's actually a school chapter. So, no, I'm sorry. You can't tell them where to go. We also propose enhanced institutional oversight of student run events. Oh no, enhanced institutional oversight of student run events to assure alignment with KSU's institutional values and mission. In other words, we want our, you know, administration to pound down any kind of conservative thought. That's what this leads to. Conclusion. I don't know why you have to write a conclusion in a petition. Okay. As an as an institution, we must grapple with our history of acts of gun violence, as well as the controversy surrounding firearms on our campus. We must grapple with the controversy surrounding firearms on our campus. Well, inviting somebody on campus who has used his Second Amendment rights to defend himself is one way to grapple with it. That's how you come to terms with these issues. Hosting Mr. Rittenhouse would further muddy our institutional reputation regarding firearms. Kent State doesn't have a reputation regarding firearms, at least no different than any other university, and would negatively affect the reputation of Kent State students. Yeah, I'm looking through this stack of resumes, and I see this student. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Person's a good computer programmer, knows Python, knows C++, COBOL. Great. Oh, wait. This person went to Kent State, and you may all know that Kent State doesn't have a very good reputation because Kyle Rittenhouse once spoke there. Lastly, the safety and well being of our students must come first. As a community, we oppose the hosting of Mr. Rittenhouse as his presence on campus would make members of our community feel unsafe and unwelcome. I want that person to tell me, what do you think is going to happen? I have asked this um, dozens of times whenever Kyle is going to appear on campus. I ask, what do you think is going to happen? Or if you're going to tell me that the people guarding him are going to open fire on the crowd, then come out and say it. I mean, tell me what is going to happen. But they won't. They know fully well that nobody is going to be endangered. They know fully well that if they get their friends together and they march over and they protest and get in the faces of those who are going to be going to this event, that nothing is going to happen to them because that's why they do it. If they really truly felt that their lives would be in danger, they wouldn't do that. But they do. These people are intellectually dishonest. Um, yeah. Um, Sign this petition. And of course, like all the other petitions I've read, it's not going to anybody. Like, if you're going to petition, you have to petition somebody. Who are they petitioning? Sign this petition. This is this is worthless. But whatever the case, Kyle, this was just a really bad idea. And the people that are surrounding you need to get their head out of their ass. So I have decided I'm no longer going to be carrying this dude's water. I mean, you'll see me once in a while refuting somebody who makes a serious mistake, but I'm dead tired of going in there and responding to a bunch of idiots because he doesn't care. I mean, he doesn't appreciate it at all. And again, he just keeps stoking the fires. And at some point, what's next? Are they going to come up with something even more outrageous for him to do to get his name in the news again? I know very well that when they came up with this, they were probably thinking, yeah, whoa, the left will really hate this. We're going to go to Kent State. Remember the shootings? Oh my God, they're going to be so mad. That's exactly what I don't want. Um, what is your purpose? Just to piss off people now? And from a Second Amendment standpoint, and I've said this before as well, from a Second Amendment standpoint, I want the average person to look at the Second Amendment and firearm ownership as something not so controversial. I want them to feel good about people's right to bear arms. And this ain't cutting it. This makes us look like a bunch of hicks who are out to piss everybody off. I'm not looking for controversy. You know, I mean, and this is why I've also said that some of the arguments you guys pick on when it comes to these gun grabbers are kind of silly, but whatever. I tell you what, guys, I'm going to take a second. I'm going to switch sunglasses so I can see through uh, my glasses here because I want to read now some of your comments. So I'm going to step out for just a quick second. All right, that's better. Let me go through and find where I'm going to be starting here. Okay, I have no idea what's going on there, but I'm going to move on. This armor stuff is silly. I agree, and you know what? A lot of people who are saying it's silly are from the pro Kyle standpoint. I mean, they are supporters of Kyle, and they're saying, "You got to be kidding me." All right, what do we see here? The Bourbon Trail. Get real, Evan Williams. Yeah, I've always wanted to go back to Kentucky. They have the Stephen Foster event. I think it's in September, where they bring out all the bourbon, and it's like a huge festival. I've always wanted to do it, but I've never been able to. You overestimate how much Kyle doing things that are bad for optics matters. I've concluded that leftists are going to find any excuse to remind everybody about how Kyle is an evil murderer. Yeah, but you can always make it worse. Yeah, you're right. There's always going to be people who get on him. The situation can always be bad, but you can always make it worse. And I'm thinking he's going to be making it a lot worse. He needs to find some way to get this to die down, but he's going in the opposite direction with it. I think he should have tried to fade into a private life, but the left wasn't going to let this go, no matter what Kyle decided to do. Well, again, it kind of goes on back to the same idea that, um, yeah, I mean, there was no way that Kyle was going to escape the criticism, right? But he's making it worse, in my opinion, and you can always make it worse. Okay, okay, so he may as well profit off being a proxy for TDS rage. I don't think he's profiting much, to be honest with you. I don't think there's a whole lot of money. For example, he's not. I mean, I have to be careful. T that TP USA, they're not charging admission. So how much money can he be making? And by the way, that's another mistake on my part. You always want to charge at least $5. That keeps people from buying up seats and then not showing up. And the article proves my point. Here would have written an article lying about Kyle if he was caught on camera crossing state lines. Okay, I think this is still going back to the idea that Well, they're going to criticize Kyle anyway, no matter what. And well, they may be right. I really don't like what he's doing. Okay. The clown is typical Antifa activist garbage. I hope you're not talking about me. I know he's not. You need to come to terms with how sexy women go to the gym are. Oh, Lucifer, dude, I'm sorry, man, but if you thought that that looked sexy, why don't you start going out with dudes? Lucifer always sends me pics of women who obviously do a lot of weightlifting and stuff like that. It's like you might as well just go out with a man. Oh, I bet he's all pissed off. I hope his wife isn't built like that because then I'm gonna have to do some apologizing. Um, Unsafe means hurt feelings. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's what they're really talking about. Remember the whole safe place thing, right? We need safe spaces on campus. From what? From having our feelings hurt. I mean, literally, that's what they mean. Yeah, I agree. Safe space, coddling. Mhm. They feel unsafe, but they will happily protest in a crowd and harass people going there because they're so terrified. I would respect them more if they were just honest. Unwelcome, no affirming the values of people who oppose Kyle. I'm not sure what you're getting at there. I think there's something wrong in the syntax. Yeah, I am too. And I will say this: the people who attack Kyle for the mother crossing state lines thing, they're just stupid. I just I kind of quit trying to understand their side of things. They're just dumb. Because look, I mean, this it's been 2 years, 3 years since the shootings, 2 years since the trial, and they still don't get it. At that point, they cannot learn. You know how they manage how they manage to stay on a college campus. I don't know. Well, they're not majoring in engineering or math or physics or chemistry or anything like that. Blow off classes like sociology. You're playing on their ball field. There's nothing controversial about Kyle going and speaking at Kent State. And this is it's Berniski. Hey, dude, how you doing? I used to do streams with Berniski for some time ago, and a lot of fun. But for some reason, well, he was working with Neil, and don't know what happened. But we got to get back together again and do another stream together. That was a lot of fun. And by the way, I disagree with you. It's very controversial. It's going to be. Once it gets closer to April, this is going to get bad. The comparisons to 1970 are going to be all over the place. And guess who's going to be equated to the National Guard shooters? Yeah, Kyle. The protesters are going to stay the same, right? But it's going to be National Guard shooters replaced with Kyle Rittenhouse shooter. He can't win that. And I get the whole thing about exercising rights, but he can do that at other college campuses. And he's doing that. If he wants to show up at Memphis on the 20th, he's showing up on the 20th at Memphis. And on the 27th, I think he's showing up. Um, I forget which campus, but there's another campus he's showing up. Okay, I don't like the whole tour thing, but whatever. Just don't go to Kent State, dude. Bad idea. Just really bad. You better run away. Uh-oh, I think I did upset his. I think he's married to somebody who's goes to the gym a lot. Hey, dude, I'm sorry, but you posted the pictures in front of me. You started it. Kyle has a good friend in you. Oh, has lost a good friend in you. Well, I mean, okay. Here's what I'm going to say about that. Sometime down the road, when he's 27 or 28, typically that's about the age, he'll wise up and he'll see what this was all about. And if he still wants to call me, I'll talk to him and I'll try to help him. I'm not going to burn the bridge with Kyle, but while he's doing this, I have no interest in this. But if he ever does see the light, and by the way, when that happens, his friends will all be gone. I mean, all those people that are hanging around him, they'll have no more use for him. And he'll wonder, like, what am I doing here? I got no money. My family's mad at me. I got no friends. He can call me or email me, and I'll go and visit him because he lives in Texas. I don't live that far, and we'll work something out. Try to get him straightened back up. But right now, no, I ain't doing it. Face red, droopy eyes. Face red, droopy eyes. Face red, droopy eyes. Face red, droopy eyes. Daisy girl, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Not me, because you can't see my eyes, and they're not droopy. Bourbon Festival, yeah, okay. So it's the Stephen Foster Bourbon Festival in Kentucky, and all of your big distilleries participate in, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's more than just bourbon. And if you enjoy drinking, it's probably something you'll want to go to before you die. Okay. And I believe it's in September. I think it's Stephen Foster's birthday. Now, Stephen Foster's not from Kentucky, but he did write Old Kentucky Home, so they kind of like him there. And I think he did live in Kentucky. But whatever the case, he's not from Kentucky. I can't remember where he's from, but it's definitely not from Kentucky. Okay. Now you underestimate the left. He can't make it worse. They will make it worse. If he doesn't go to Kent State, they can't, as far as the whole relating to the National Guard thing. They can't because there's no connection now. Um, oh, I think he can always make it worse. Don't underestimate the left in terms of how much worse they can make it when they want to. More interested in Hancock's allegations, which undermine the picture of KR presented at trial. Okay, so let me talk about that. Um, Dave Hancock is basically making the claim that Kyle is not the sweet, innocent kid that everybody thinks. That Kyle had, like, let's say, fantasies about shooting people, you know, and also that Kyle was racist. And he makes a claim that Kyle sent out a text message that used the N word. Now, how does Dave Hancock know this? According to Dave, Kyle left his cell phone at Dave's house. Dave got a hold of it. And Kyle was desperately trying to get back to the point where he claims that Kyle actually speared his tires and that there were threats and all that kind of stuff. Don't know. I mean, it doesn't really sound like Kyle, but hey, you know what? I don't know Kyle personally. But at any rate, that's where the source of the text messages supposedly come from. So he's claiming that he has uh, Kyle's cell phone. He opened it and he found all these things. And apparently, I guess, I don't know if he ever told me he turned them over to the plaintiffs in the upcoming civil trials, but I'm getting the impression that they have them. All right. How Dave can get into Kyle's cell phone legally, I don't know about that. And well, he didn't protect it, doesn't matter. I mean, it's still somebody else's cell phone. So this is a private communication. I mean, if I pick up somebody's cell phone, I can't just go in there and just start reading their text messages, right? But I am not a lawyer. So, okay. The other thing is that he's a security person, and as a security person, I would think that you would want to be especially careful about not disclosing that which you find on your client's um, personal mobile devices. I think that that's kind of a professional obligation. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Kyle had left by then, but I don't think that that disappears. I still think that because he was an employer, you're still bound by professional ethics of not disclosing private, sensitive information publicly. But again, I'm talking out of my ass because I don't know the laws. It was just an impression I get. I'm just thinking that doesn't sound right. I know that if I hire somebody for personal security, and I mean highly charged situations where you think you might get death threats and stuff, I would be mad as hell if that dude went into my cell phone, found stuff, and then just broadcast. I would be like, wait, I hired you to do what? However, I might be like not describing what happened accurately, and I don't know the laws involved or the whole thing about what it means to be a professional security dude, but it just doesn't sit right with me. So at any rate, he is claiming that Kyle is a real punk, that he is not an innocent dude, and that when the trial comes up, that we're going to all hear about the true Kyle Rittenhouse, and that we're going to be devastated. And he's kind of said those kind of things. Maybe he's right. And this is the reason why I haven't picked arguments with him, because I don't know if he's wrong. I don't know if he's making things up. He knows Kyle or knew him personally. He has access to information I don't have, so I can't say. At any rate, that's how that's coming apart. I mean, that's the whole deal. Honest leftist? Come on. You know they don't exist. Okay, well, I'm not going to go there. By the way, I do distinguish between liberal and leftist. I have a lot of liberal friends, but I consider leftists to be a little bit more devious. That's all I have for you tonight, guys. At any rate, I just wanted to come on, vent a little, and tell you what's going on. I don't think you're going to see me on Twitter as much defending Kyle. I'm moving to the Rashad Ritchie thing, which has gotten crazy. And well, one more thing. I think this Thursday, mark this down, this Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to have Kriston Harris, the Kriston T. Harris, the independent reporter that was at the Kenosha shootings, and he was on the witness stand. He's going to come on the show, and we're going to talk about the Kenosha shootings. Okay, so I'm not going to stop necessarily with any Kyle Rittenhouse videos. I'm going to probably curl it back a little bit, but I'm just not going to get involved in any more these massive online banters. All right, guys, I don't have anything else for you. I'm going to take off, and let me know what you think. So I'll see you around.